Okay, we will go ahead and get started for today. As always, we'll just start by going over the CME information. So, in order to get credit, if you text the CE code on the screen to the number on the screen by tomorrow, this will automatically activate the online evaluation so that you can go fill it out right after the meeting. If you don't do that, once we send in attendance, it will still be populated on your Beaumont CME portal. The thing is, there will just be a bit of a delay, and you won't be able to complete it like immediately via the meeting. So that's the difference there. But so even if you don't send in this code, it'll be fine. You'll still get the evaluation, and then that's due by the 27th. Here is our disclosures with Dr. Ashman, our course co-director, having a disclosure reported on the screen. And then we are able to offer CME and CE credit for medicine CME, nursing CE, pharmacy CE, and dietetics CPEU. And this meeting will be worth 1 hour of credit. And so with that, Amy, I'll let you pull up your screen while I'm doing a brief introduction of you. We're really excited to have Amy Snyder here, who has been practicing as a registered dietitian since 2007. She's been employed by the University of Michigan Health since March of 2015. She previously worked for the Michigan Institute for Health Enhancement and Bronson Battle Creek Diabetes Center. Amy is currently a part of the primary care RD team. She spent a few years taking on new patient referrals from Michigan Medicine GI, so she is described as the GI specialist of primary care. Amy holds a certification in diabetes care and education, functions as a health and well-being coach, and has completed a master's of science in nutrition education from Northeastern University. In August of 2022, she began a new consulting role that has allowed her to provide support to other Michigan-based healthcare professionals looking to develop their motivational interviewing skills. And that's a little bit of what Amy will be talking about today. Amy's biggest passion in life is connecting with family, including her dog Buddy, friends, and patients. She's found the strategies described within motivational interviewing to be a wonderful way to help these connections thrive. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Amy.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And I just really am so thankful to be here with each of you. And speaking about that dog, I apologize in advance. He is my coworker because I work from home. So if he starts barking during my presentation, I apologize. I know that's more normal than it used to be all those years ago. So as you can see in the title of my presentation, we're not only going to talk about motivational interviewing, but it was actually, this was very fun for me to prepare. In the new MI4 book, they talk about what are some 4 common provider traps that we can fall into. And I say we because I myself, as you know, as just heard, I am a registered dietitian. So I am in the trenches having these conversations. And so that is the spin that I took on today's discussion is, what are how do I fall into these traps basically? And then my hope at the end would be maybe we could talk about how it might show up in your world, since I know we live in different ones if we talk about the nitty-gritty details. Right. I just want to make sure my slides are advancing. All right, here we go. So going through some basic objectives. So of course, we will go through, I have to say, a very basic definition of motivational interviewing. There are, I'm still learning about this, and I've been at this for, I don't know, like 16, 17 years. So it's really more of an art than a science. And we could spend hours just talking about this definition, but we're going to do our best within an hour to talk about what the heck is motivational interviewing, or MI, as I will be calling it. And then we'll explore how does this relate to patient health behavior change? And then, as I've already said, how do these provider traps that we can fall into negatively influence that health behavior change? Those real life situations, again, from my perspective, I'll be walking you through that. And most importantly, anytime I do a chat like this, my biggest intention is for each one of you, if you are interested in applying some of these, to feel that you have an actionable step to make that happen. So that's really my goal ultimately, is to give you some things to think about and ponder and actually apply, again, if you make that decision. So every year, or every time there is the MI4 book, what I mean by that is MI was created back in the early 1990s by Dr. Bill Miller and Dr. Stephen Rolnick, interestingly, in the field of addiction medicine. And they've now written 4 books. Each time they write a new book, it kind of ebbs and flows and changes. And so does the definition. So the official definition of motivational interviewing that now in the newest book, the MI4 they've chosen, is a particular way of talking with people about change and growth to strengthen their own motivation and commitment. And I took the liberty of underlying their own. And I'm sure all of you have heard of motivational interviewing. At least, I would say, well, it's a thing. And that is one of the biggest things is it is very patient or person centered. And that's what I love about this definition is reinforcing the person centeredness of it. And also I love that it says it's a way of talking with people. And that's really what this is how do we have a conversation with our patients in an effective way. So this video, this is Dr. Bill Miller put this out with when the new book came out back in August of 23. And I'm going to use this to interestingly guide our conversation as he uses a tour guide analogy to explain motivational interviewing. So Jackie, I think, and I can try mine again, or if you want to take over.
Give me just 1 second and I will share my screen.
Okay.
And you want the whole video, right, Amy?
Yeah, yep, it's like 2-ish minutes. Yeah.
Motivational interviewing involves a change in role, a change in how you think about what you're doing. You're not the expert there to fix the person. You don't have to make the person change. The truth is, in fact, that you can't make a person change. You don't have to be the one to come up with all the good ideas. A person with really good ideas is sitting across from you and may have better ideas than you do. It's not like a competitive sport. It's not like wrestling where you try to defeat and pin and outsmart and outwit the person. It's more like dancing together, moving together, adjusting your movements to the other person. Overall, motivational interviewing is not a directive approach. Neither is it just a following approach. Following is listening to the person and kind of going wherever they go. Motivational interviewing is in the middle, between those two, and we describe it as guiding. If you go to another country and you hire a guide, you don't expect the guide just to follow you around. That's not what you're looking for. Neither do you expect the guide to order you when you will arrive, when you will leave, what you want to see, what you will enjoy, what you're going to do. That's not a good guide either. Good guiding involves good listening as well as using your own expertise. A good guide will find out where you want to go, what you're interested in, what you're hoping for on this journey, and then help you get there using his or her own expertise, enjoyably, safely, efficiently, perhaps. That's the guide's job. Not solely directing, not solely following. There's some of each in it, but it's a blend of those things. This may or may not be the way you've been thinking about your own work, but we invite you to try it out.
Well, so aiming for this middle path of guiding, as Dr. Miller has just described, I don't know, I think that's such a creative video. I really felt like that was very meaningful. So this guiding has been shown there's actually research, thousands of pieces of research now, that it does promote patient behavior change across many different settings, including primary care. And there's especially helpful evidence that when it comes to chronic condition management, specifically type 2 diabetes would be on that list, because it does promote dietary change, medication adherence, physical activity, and even weight loss, which is many of the things my understanding this collaborative really aims to promote for the people it serves. And it's a disclaimer, though, importantly, that experts agree, even Miller and Rolnick, that MI alone may be insufficient. It can be used as a freestanding intervention. In fact, I have done that probably a few times, but most often it's combined with other treatments. So it's framed as more of a way of doing what we do. It's a general way of delivering healthcare. So how does this work? How does this, and you might hear me say this again too, is it's a way of being. So how does this way of being help healthcare providers such as yourself to become more effective guides? So the other important part of motivational interviewing that wasn't included in that very basic definition that I showed you is how this really focuses on exploring something called ambivalence, as well as the change process overall. And then the idea here is that this may help get the patient into action. So unfortunately, there is no guarantee that what we do or don't do as providers will impact the behavior of this person that we are talking with, right? That's a hard thing, but that's just the truth. But the idea here is to explore that ambivalence. And again, what is ambivalence? You might be thinking. This gentleman here is highlighting ambivalence. What I feel like he's thinking is, I want to go this way and this way. So another definition for ambivalence is feeling two ways about something, just how we can have parts that are completely at war with one another. Like, I both want to eat, the whole package of Oreos, and I also don't want to eat the Oreos. Those two things can exist within the same person. It is one of the most normal things that humans go through. So this practice really just runs into that ambivalence and doesn't judge it, but just explores it, as well as how that impacts the change process. So there's two main, when I think of MI, two main things, like components that it has. So it has MI intentions, and then it has MI skills. So MI intentions are what is described as, part of that is the spirit of MI. You might also think of this as the attitude or the spirit of the conversation that you are having when you are within this way of being, when you're within this guiding, mentality. There is an acronym alert, that gives more detail about the spirit of MI. So I'll go through those with you now. So P stands for partnership. So the spirit of MI believes that it is not teacher-student necessarily when you're in a helping conversation. It's more of, a partnership where you're working together and you are each experts in different ways. So that might be, like Dr. Miller said, a different way in which you're approaching behavior change conversations at this point. A stands for acceptance. Sometimes radical acceptance, that whole part of, it might not matter what we do or don't do, that the patient is going to do what they do or not do. And that is even inside our mind, if we can just accept that this person is doing what they feel is best for them, we can show up in a much different way, in my opinion, again, without that judgment. C stands for compassion. There are multiple different definitions of compassion, believe it or not. The one that I resonate most with, and that MI would agree with, is this idea of shared humanity and even shared suffering. And then that idea of wanting to do something to help that shared suffering. So it's very different than sympathy, where you go, oh, right, where you're feeling badly for someone. It's more empathy of saying, oh, wow, even if my thing is different than your thing, we still are both struggling with something. And spirit, the spirit of MI endorses that and addresses it. And then lastly, this is a change with the MI4 book. It used to be evocation as the E in PACE, but now it's empowerment. This is the very truthful statement that the people we work with have gifts and talents and knowledge They may not have everything that they need to change, but they do have some things. So it's our job as healthcare providers to empower them and to really draw out what they already have inside of them. Um, and every time I talk about the spirit of MI, I have to take the opportunity to address my, I don't know, distaste for the word non-compliant, the thought of non-compliant. And I understand why it could be used in healthcare, but it is in direct, I don't know, violation of the spirit of MI. So if you're looking for other language to use, if you feel like you do need to label or put something in a chart, I was actually thinking about this earlier, in the words self-guided, independent, those kinds of more non-judgmental words perhaps are more effective, as well as our patients can now read our notation. So if we type that out, they're likely to read it, and they could have an experience that is not positive about that. Or even if you just think it up here, it could sneak through when you're talking with your patient. So that's just my encouragement. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but to encourage maybe unlearning that way of labeling your patients. So again, MI intentions, and now more of the MI skills. Very, very brief introduction, like I've said. So the acronym here is OARS. So OAR stands for open questions. These are the drawing out questions versus closed questions. That's not that you can't ever ask a closed question, but incorporating more openness when you're dialoguing with someone. And you'll hear a couple of these in the scripting examples that I'll give. A stands for affirmations. This is, I think, really a part of the heart set, they also say with MI, of aiming to look for something positive. It's not praise. It's not an atta girl, atta boy, although you could do that if that feels organic to you. But it would be more of the idea of saying something like, not saying, yay for you keeping, that food journal, good job. It would be, wow, you keeping that food journal really shows how motivated you are to watch your carbohydrates and control your diabetes. It just hits differently. And you can use this in very interesting ways to really just be a more affirming provider. Instead of looking for what's not going well, let's look for what is going well. And R would be reflections. This is a literal thing in my mind. It's when I do a reflection with someone, I'm holding up a mirror to say, hey, this is what I've just heard you say. Would you agree with that? Did I miss something? What would you add or subtract? And it's a form of active listening. And then S stands for summaries. This one might not be used, I don't know, quite as often as the OAR in my experience, but there can be some merit here. Summaries are often used if someone shares a lot of the reasons why they might want to change. You could gather that up as like a bouquet of flowers and say, this is everything you told me about the benefits of change. I also use it if, oh man, some of my very complex Michigan medicine patients, they share a lot of information with me. It could be health conditions, it could be dietary struggles. Sometimes in my mind, I start to kindly panic and go, oh my gosh, what am I going to do next? Or okay, I need to get this straight. I might actually say, all right, I'd like to take a pause and let me tell you everything that I've heard. So it's a reflection as well as a summary of all the information. And again, it's a way of saying, did I hear you correctly? Instead of making assumptions. And what I really like so this next slide is we're going to tie back into that tour guide analogy. So these are called the 4 tasks of MI. I think it's probably an intention and a skill together, but this is the way that MI puts in their mind of what are all the things that happen in a helping conversation. So engaging in blue, that's always the base, that's ongoing, it never stops, patient engagement. And then the stair steps of getting to focusing, evoking, and planning is built upon that. So let's use the tour guide analogy to maybe get a better understanding of what this means with all these words. So engaging would be you, again, as the tour guide, when this person comes into your office to say, may I walk with you? It's really getting permission. Like, hey, could I be your tour guide? Could we walk together? And if they say yes, then focusing would be, well, where are we going? Like, what's your definition? Really getting focused on having a shared place that you're aiming to end up. And then evoking is, well, why would you go there? This is you evoking or drawing out what about this location feels good to you, AKA the person that you're speaking with. You may have reasons why you think it's a good thing, but it really matters more as to why they think it's a good thing that they want to end up at whatever this location is. And then planning, that is the final part to say, well, how will you get there? And to me, these all came from the MI book. I also would say is what will you do when you get there is part of planning. And I have to say, as providers, we can easily, I think, we might skip engaging, but even if we don't, we engage and someone seems happy to work with us, we might jump all the way up to the top of the staircase, which isn't necessarily something off limits. You can do that, but it's important to make sure you've asked all these questions and gotten this information before you get to that planning phase. And I understand why it's hard to do that. So now that we understand, hopefully have a better understanding of the MI intentions and MI skills, going back to, again, the Dr. Miller video, this idea of veering too far toward either the directing or following aspect that he said, again, is MI is a mixture of the two. This is where we can fall into these traps, and this can slow the progress on that middle path of guiding that has, as I've said earlier, has been shown to be helpful for health behavior change. So now what I want to do is go through the 4 traps and explain and give you some examples as to how I see this show up in my world of dietetics. So the first one is the expert trap. This either sounds like, or you hear in your mind, I have all the answers. We've all been here. This is I think, I've been here. This is a directing approach. We are veering more towards the directive approach. And this is where we become the authority that is feels completely in charge of solving this patient's problem. And our years of education and experience in whatever field we're in, it's very convincing that we now notice we always know best when we're in this expert trap. And the unfortunate collateral damage here is that the patient that we are aiming so much to assist could leave our conversation feeling patronized, restricted, and disempowered, even though they really are the expert in their own lives, and we're almost trying to take that away from them when we're in this trap. So what could this, so I'm going to give you a question that I would ask, and then what the patient says. And then after that, I will give you an example of an expert response and then a guiding response. This is, if you're a dietitian, you know, this is very typical, or even if you're not, this might be a question that you have, a conversation you have with people. So what do you typically eat for dinner? It's an open question. Patient response. I really love pasta and bread. I know I'm eating more than what was discussed in diabetes class. Eating an entire box of mac and cheese is not the best for my blood sugar, but it tastes so good. The bread I eat is homemade, but I end up eating more than one slice because I put the whole loaf next to me during dinner. How do I stop doing this to myself? This person is, they're almost inviting us to put our expert hat on, right? This is tricky. So what does an expert response sound like? So we generally are going to list off the changes that we think that they could make and exactly how they could make them. We are not inviting their participation at all in our response. So here's the expert response. The portion of pasta and bread you're eating is clearly causing your blood sugars to go too high. Just stop making the entire box of mac and cheese. I only buy a single serve mac and cheese cup and it works well for me. I also think you should stop making homemade bread because you eat too much of it. If you take the risk of making it, even though I said not to, you really need to stop putting it on the table right next to you. I stopped putting food on the table while I am eating dinner, and it was very helpful for me. When will you start making the changes I recommended? Now, I on purpose ended this with an open question to highlight open questions may not always be appropriate. In my opinion, this is maybe not the best open question. So what else could we say, or how could we field maybe a more effective guiding response? So we are going to invite more of a collaborative feel via brainstorming and aim to reflect some of the insight that the patient has shared. So you already know that the way you're eating your pasta and bread are not helpful when it comes to your diabetes control. Because your doctor told you that I am the nutrition expert on the team, you were hoping I would know how to solve this challenge for you. And that makes sense. While I do have some ideas to share, I happen to believe that you are the expert in you. What if we did some brainstorming together? Another open question, and it is an invitation of collaboration. And if the patient agrees, the provider wouldn't, I do generally invite them to go first. Now, this doesn't always happen exactly the way that you think it will. The person could say, no, I mean, that's what I'm here for. I'd love to hear some ideas from you. Well, that's your green light. If they have given you I literally have no clue what to do, you get to step in and offer some of your expert insights. Or if they want you to go first during brainstorming, of course, but it's more of these invitations to allow them to be empowered if they choose to be so. And another idea here, this is quite controversial in the MI trainings that I've done, the advanced ones, about how much self-disclosure is appropriate. And there's not a 100% agreement here, but one thing that I might try at least first, especially if it's someone that I don't know very well on a new appointment, I might put my own, I don't know, personal things that I do in a different wrapping paper by saying something like, some of my patients find that fill in the blank, whatever that is, be it using the smaller mac and cheese cups, not putting food on the table in this example works for them, but this doesn't necessarily need to be true for you. How do you think this would go if you tried it? So they don't need to know that some of my patients includes you. And the reason this is controversial is that depending on the person's personality and just their life experience, there might be this pressure feeling that, oh my gosh, like I need to say yes, I need to do this. And then even if they say yes and they do it, it doesn't work, they might hide the truth from you to protect that relationship. Now, not everyone would do that. But again, just the self-disclosure, I would say think before you do it, because there could be some collateral damage. Again, an encouragement. All right, number 2 trap. The persuasion trap. This sounds like, or thinks like, I am here to convince you. Another directing trap. This is where the provider takes on the responsibility of convincing their patient about the pros of changing. This does seem to happen more easily when there is a sense of urgency for whatever reason. We're more likely to fall into this trap. And then it does encourage the person to defend the cons of changing. There's something called psychological reactance that all humans have. At least the way I understand it, is it's almost like if someone's trying to kind of force information on you or try to say, these are the reasons why you should do it, the brain goes, I'm going to tell you all the reasons why I shouldn't do it. And it's more of a debate versus a conversation. So here's another scenario. So I say, what concerns do you have about your eating habits? Patient says, my doctor says that I'm eating too many carbohydrates because my A1C is 11%, but I think she's wrong. I'm not convinced that carbohydrates do bad things to my blood sugar, even though that is what I have read online and in all the pamphlets that are out in the waiting room. I know my blood sugar is too high, but I look forward to the big bowl of ice cream I eat every night. And it's not like I eat the whole carton, even though I'd really like to. Ooh, this is tricky. If you're having thoughts and emotions, they're valid. So this is a persuasive response. So I, as provider, I immediately side with the other medical professionals, the pamphlets, the articles. I am going to double click on the science of carbs and blood sugar because my brain is exploding that this person seems to think that she's different than every other human that exists. And then I'm going to also go into explanatory role of some of the risks of having this A1C of 11%. All right, I say, I see in your chart that you went to diabetes education last year, so it is shocking that you're rejecting the truth. Everything your doctor has said and everything you have read is 100% how it is. Carbohydrates make your blood sugar go up. You really need to stop eating that ice cream so that you can watch your grandkids grow up. Don't you know high blood sugar causes blindness? That's not an open question, but it's definitely a persuasive question with this idea to convince this person. And don't judge yourself. If you said these things, I understand why you would, right? This is not a great situation for this person. So a guiding response is we are going to reflect the belief that they have just shared. This is not agreement. I want to say it again. It's not agreement. We're not saying that we are co-signing on whatever they're saying, but we're going to reflect back. Like, this is the belief I heard you say. Is that correct? And we are going to go in radical acceptance and MI spirit that your job is to not leave them feeling convinced. What we could do is to invite them to explore what it would take to change their mind. Is there a world? So you have taken classes, spoken to your doctor, and read multiple articles that point out the typical impact of carbohydrates on blood sugar. Your A1C is higher than you want it to be, but you aren't quite sure that the carbohydrates you eat make a difference. And I don't feel it's my job to convince you otherwise, because it's just true. What, if anything, would change your mind about this? The if anything, all of you, is so important because it's giving the person an out to say nothing would change my mind. And if they say that, if they go absolutely nothing would change my mind about this, well, that's information, right? Because again, if you go into convincing mode, they've already told you it's not going to be a thing. So saving your breath now is probably helpful for the relationship. And you could even ask for permission to just bring it up. Like, in 6 months, if we chat again, I would love to just talk about this again. What do you think about that? And then go from there with their response. And you saw this a few times, and I've just said it. It's called fostering autonomy. Also, the importance of giving information that is clinically important. So we have each taken an oath of first do no harm. So if there's something important for you to say, please do it. Please just, if you can ask for permission, if it's not something that is, damage, like life-threatening. These could be concerns for safety based upon the conversation, and then really the, desire to share professional opinion or offer a resource. So this is how it could sound. Based upon my education and years of experience, here, I have some things I would like to say to you based upon today's conversation. Do you mind if I share? And really, I have maybe been told once or twice, no. And in this case, it was not imminent. It wasn't a threat to their life. So I said, okay, I respect that. And you can even affirm such a thing and say, wow, you really know what you want to hear and what you don't want to hear. You're really strong in your knowledge about yourself. You're not agreeing with it, but you're just saying, hey, I see you. So just something to think about. All right. Number 3, the wandering trap. This sounds like, or feels like, I will listen and follow you wherever you go, even if it does not relate at all. Oh, struggle is real with this one for me. The wandering trap is a following trap. The provider listens so well that the patient will continue to talk about literally whatever is on their mind. Oh man, this is so tough for me. And it might happen more easily if the patient has limited support, right? What if we are the only person this individual interacts with all day? It's a trap. And I've had this happen. I have some current ones I'm trying to work on. This can confuse our patients. I've had a few that feel like that I am their friend. I've known these people for many years, that I am more of their friend than I am their healthcare provider in a helping relationship. Now, I'm not judging if you like having, your patients as friends, or if that works for you, awesome. But I find if someone feels like I'm a friend, it just changes the dynamic. So the wandering trap makes this a lot more likely. All right. So dietitian says, what did you eat yesterday? Patient response. Well, I was going to eat breakfast yesterday, but then my mom called. She asked me to go pick up some groceries for her, and then I had to remind her that my car is in the shop. She never listens to me. You know who else doesn't listen to me? My husband and my kids. I don't feel like my family appreciates me, and that makes me feel depressed. I called off work yesterday because I was so depressed, and my boss didn't even seem to care either. My dog is the only one who cares about me. Do you have a dog? Such a trap for me. So, this is an example I want to highlight. Many humans do not think or speak in a straight line. We have our start at the bottom and our finish at the top. Theoretically, right, the start of what I asked could be a straight line to the finish of the answer to the conversation. Is that what I got? No. Nope. We got lots of squiggles and turns, and eventually, hopefully we would get to the finish line, but maybe we're somewhere over here on this loop, or who knows where we are. But I don't know. When I made the squiggle, I'm like, yeah, that tracks with how many of the humans I know speak. So a wandering response expands upon, in this example, maybe how difficult life is for this person right now in this example. It's when you ask for more detailed information about something that's not necessarily related to the initial question. So in my dietetics world, I would say, man, you have so many hard things happening to you. I cannot believe that you even showed up to your appointment. Your family doesn't respect you at all. It's almost like they expect you to do whatever they need you to do, even if you get hurt in the process. How long do you think you'll be depressed? Now, when I was going through this in kind of practicing for today, I went, well, I don't know if that would be an appropriate response if I am a social worker. I don't know that. But I know in my world, if this was the question that I asked, I am not going to get information about eating habits. I'm going to get information about something that is really outside of my scope if it's asked in this way. So what's a guiding response? How do we create that? We will acknowledge, validate, and reflect parts of what we hear. And then we're going to encourage the person to reflect upon, how whatever they've shared relates back to the topic at hand. Now, this is an invitation, doesn't mean it's going to work. So you've had a lot of hard things going on in your life right now, and it makes sense that it's taking a toll on you emotionally. Despite this, you're here speaking with me today about your health. That's an affirmation. How does feeling depressed impact your eating, if at all? It's another, if they might not have any insight, or they might not believe that there is any connection, but it's almost like we're trying to have a lasso and say, come on back, come on back to the nutrition conversation, right? To get us off of that loop. So if this is a chronic concern with either certain patients or certain patient populations that you've noticed, this is right from the MI4 book, so you're not alone. The encouragement here is that it's probably time to do some clarification with what you're here to do, and to do your best to create a clear plan to how to move in that direction. And just like with any boundary, it's going to take reinforcement and reminders, especially if you've been wandering together for a long time. I'm saying that to myself. So again, struggle is real. All right, finally, the time trap. So this feels like I/we need to blank. Could be any number of things. So let's hurry up and get to that. The time trap can be either directing or following, and I'll give you examples of both. This generally happens if a provider is in a rush, and we are more likely to, I am more likely to rush. I don't know if this is true for you in these scenarios. So if I'm feeling a financial or institutional pressure, this patient has to set a goal. Or if I feel a sense of urgency, such as if they have a complex medical history. In my world, it could literally be they have 4 or 5 health conditions that impact their eating, and they might not necessarily all match. If it's complex, it's like, oh my gosh, we got to hurry up and get to blank. Or if the patient has multiple needs, multiple questions, reinforces that urgency. Or if we have a short appointment time, maybe the patient showed up late for any number of reasons, or if it's an institutionally chosen shortened appointment time. And then lastly, in the book, they noted if there's a focus on a particular course of action too quickly, we can fall into the time trap as well. So what does this sound like? So dietitian, what are your action goals for the next 2 weeks? Patient response. I could start eating vegetables, but I could also stop eating so much fast food. My doctor thinks I should stop eating bread and pasta completely. And my husband thinks I need to stop getting candy bars from the gas station. And my daughter thinks I should go on the keto diet. Everyone has an opinion. I like the way that I eat, even though I know it's bad for my blood sugar. It sucks having diabetes. Time pressed response 1. So a provider ends up, this is more of that directive approach. The provider ends up choosing one of the things mentioned as the goal, which is most likely the one that they, as provider, feels would offer the most benefit. This leads to the person potentially either saying okay, because they feel our rushed aura, or they might get mad at us because they can tell that we're rushing them to commit to something that they might not be all in for. So I say, I agree with the doctor that the pasta and bread that you eat are both a problem. These foods are high in carbohydrates and probably the reason your A1C was 11% last month. I'm going to write that down as your goal. What number should I call when I check up on you in 2 weeks? Oh my gosh, I can't even say that out loud. But yeah, that's a thing. Time pressed response 2. This is more of a following time pressed response. So I'm going to write down all the things that the patient mentioned, and they might react the same. They say either okay or they get mad. Okay, so this is me to patient. I'm going to write down your goal is to go on the keto diet. Since this means you no longer eat fast food, cheeseburgers, bread, pasta, or candy bars. Aren't I clever? And I will put down that you're going to eat more vegetables to replace all the foods you're cutting out. I know you really want your blood sugar to go down, so it makes sense that you're going to make all these changes at the same time. Same question. What number should I call when I check up on you in 2 weeks? All right, give us some alternatives. What else could we say? Oh, so this is where I reflect on what the patient has just shared, and I'm going to foster their autonomy and just radically put it back on them. And then 2, what I also could do is to point out how much time is left during the appointment. One strategy you could try is to do this both times. I mean, you could do it in the beginning to say, all right, we have 20 minutes together today. What's most important to you? And or you could also say, when I ask that question, I could say, okay, we have 5 minutes, to discuss what are the action goals you'll think you'll do in the next 2 weeks. But if we forgot to do both of those, we could do it now. So there are quite a few people in your life who are giving you their opinions about what you shouldn't eat. Part of you doesn't want to change, and another part knows the way you're eating isn't getting you closer to your goal of improving your A1C. Unfortunately, we only have 5 minutes left to discuss this today, and rushing to choose a goal isn't likely to be helpful. Where does this leave you? Which is such a scary open question. I get that, but it's really just offering it back up to them to see what would they say? So as I wrap up and open up the floor for question and conversation, I started to reflect on just the importance of us caring for ourselves as providers and knowing where are we, again, thinking about myself, when am I most likely to fall in these traps just within my own mind? What are my caution handle with care situations? So these are what I come up with. And if you have more, I'd love to hear it. So when I'm feeling overwhelmed, when I'm feeling rushed, when I'm already feeling like an expert, when I'm having an emotion like frustration, if I put my judgment hat on, which humans do, if I'm just plain tired out. These are caution handle with care situations, and they're all valid and they'll all happen. But the encouragement would be to, if you notice, take a time out, which is even hard to do when you're helping others. Take a time out and just say, well, how am I doing? How am I feeling? And am I at risk for falling into some of these traps? I love this quote so much. This came from the book. I don't think I said this. I used to say this when I would give talks, but what they explain and I love is that MI it's not a technique, and it's not a way of getting people to do what you want them to do. And the MI spirit is considered the heart set of motivational interviewing because we are coming to this person with benevolence, this might seem radical, but I'm just going to give an example. Like someone could be, I don't know, drinking very heavily, and that is dangerous for them. That they could have some really negative outcomes from that. And also that might be actually keeping them alive. That might seem weird, but people do things that they need to do in the moment. and you can offer assistance, you can offer, but if that person, if you tried a technique to say, well, you need to stop drinking, and they did, they might actually pass away from that, right? We're trying to help. That's a very severe example. But again, it's not a technique. It's really to meet people where they are, see where they want to go, and see what we might be able to do to guide them there. Um, and just again, before we open up the floor for conversation, questions, and all that, just a few plugs for some more learning opportunities. As you know, Michigan Institute for Care Management and Transformation, or MICMT, if you don't know, they offer a patient engagement foundations course. It is all not all, it is MI informed mostly. There's some other things in it, but I'd encourage you to take that. I think it's officially like a 6-hour course. Also consultation services. This is hot off the presses, and we are really getting to the details of this, but I will now be offering consultation services for any of you. If you would like to get together for more of a coaching, discussion of, you bring whatever's challenging to you and we talk about that. I also will be bringing to the table more of a simulated patient encounter. We might call this role playing, which can put a bad taste in the mouth, but I do place someone named Sally, where you can, we talk before and after I turn into Sally, and you get direct feedback from me. So very excited to offer you that. And I did create a cheat sheet that is the Care Manager's Guide to Effective Patient Interactions. You can find it here at this link from our website. And it goes through more scripting, also how to care for yourself as a care manager before, during, and after a patient encounter. And then I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I want to use the remaining time for more interactions with each of you. But I gathered a lot of resources, and I just labeled for you what they were. A couple of them are online courses. If you like that kind of thing, a book, if you're a reader, if you're a podcaster like me, or if you like to watch YouTube videos. Again, these are all just some places that you could go for more information. So with that, I thank you for listening, and I am open for questions, feedback, all that good stuff.
Thanks so much, Amy. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to either put them in the chat, or if you feel comfortable, unmuting yourself and asking them out loud.
And Jackie, do you want me to look at the chat, or do you want to open them and read the questions? What's easiest?
Free to read any questions that come in.
Yeah, that I will do it.
I can do it. Yep.
Oh, you can do it. Okay, got it.
Right now, just a lot of appreciation and thanks for your presentation coming through the chat.
Oh, you're welcome. I had so much fun making this. I really did. And delivering it today, since it's the first time.
Great. Yeah, we're really, really excited for Amy to be offering these simulation sessions to the collaborative. We're working out like the final details of that, and we'll make an announcement to the collaborative overall when that's available and how to sign up and what it will all entail. But it'll be such a great opportunity for you to practice those motivational interviewing skills with, a patient in Amy and getting feedback on that. So thank you so much, Amy, for being willing to do that.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And it's really, it is inherently kind of an awkward thing to do role playing. I've done it many times where I am not the patient. I am the person leading the conversation. And I want each of you to know it's not a pass, fail, good, bad, judgmental thing. It's basically meeting you wherever you are and really guiding you towards where you want to be with patient engagement and motivational interviewing, just like we've discussed today.
Okay, and we do have a question in the chat. And Mary, this is a great question because I've heard other people struggle with this too. So Mary had said that she still struggles with time. So people will hear you say like, okay, I have 5 minutes, but then keep talking anyways. How would you suggest addressing that, Amy? Or like, how do you kind of navigate that situation?
Yeah, just to say struggle is real. It is so difficult, and I'm not always effective at it either. But this is where the boundary holding is where we have to go. So I might really listen intently And if there's any like little pause, I might go, oh my gosh, fill in the blank. Like, oh my gosh, Cindy, I'm going to use the name Cindy. I,
Mhm.
re- I think I could talk to you all day, but as I said to you earlier, I just don't have the time right now. I would love to continue this conversation. We can do that via portal or like whatever you can offer them. And just like with any boundary, my understanding as I practice them is people will have an emotional reaction to that. And that's, you really are kind of protecting yourself in that case. So it's not easy, but it's kind of kindly interrupting them to hold firm on that. But it's really hard. It's really hard.
See me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess,
And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, no, go ahead, go ahead. Mhm.
I was just going to ask everyone out there in Zoom land, what situations could you think, because again, this is through my dietitian lens, but what other situations can you think of where you might fall in a trap in your world, whatever your world is, be it as a nurse, a social worker, is there anything you can think of?
As people are thinking about that question, and please
Yeah,
feel free to put your answers in the chat around that, like what other areas besides diet counseling, this would be helpful. And there was another question
sure.
in the chat from Haley as a dietetic student, just wondering any advice you have for someone at the beginning of the MI journey or anything you wish you learned about MI in school. Mhm.
Oh, what a good question. I would say the MI spirit conversation, the really getting affirmed in that before you worry too much about the skills. So it's all important, but I would say making sure that when you're in a conversation with a patient that you are showing up within that PACE acronym. So am I showing up as a partner with this person, or am I going in feeling like I'm the nutrition expert, which that's what I was taught in school, is it was kind of drilled into my head, like you are the expert. And yes, we do have skills, but to just reinforce that this person is the expert in their own lives. And I guess doing some self-coaching, even right, that's what's on the care manager's guide to effective patient interactions, is how do we kind of take deep breaths and get centered if we can before we go into an appointment. And I wish someone would have given me permission to care for myself equally as I do for my patients, because I definitely didn't do that before. I kind of burnt myself out trying to help others and forgetting that I'm important too as a provider and as a human.
One of the comments was, I'm a pharmacist at a PCP office and I get stuck in the wandering trap every once in a while, and I try really hard to get them back on track. Usually they can, but that's like a major challenge.
Yeah. Oh, that full disclosure, that's the trap. That's a trap I fall in, again, especially if it's someone who I've known for years and I know that they don't have anyone else in their life. It's easy to fall into that trap. But again, I think being compassionate, using the MI spirit with ourselves, which I don't know, is so important. Like we need to be a partner for ourselves and be compassionate for ourselves, that we won't always show up the way that we want to, and that's okay. It's just learning from these hiccups that we have as we move forward.
All right, last call for any other questions for Amy. All right, well, Amy, thank you again so much for being here today. Oh wait, actually there's one more. More of a comment. Sometimes the wandering helps the patient work through their own confusion. This is like, and then said, thank you. This is like vitamins, need to keep it coming and practicing this. As MI is practiced in real life, more situations and questions come up. This is so valuable.
Yeah. And that's such a good point, is that the wandering, especially if they're speaking out loud and exploring a thought, Eventually, some people, as you get to know them, they will, again, even if they're on that start to finish squiggle, if they eventually will get to the finish of whatever the topic is, I could not agree with you more that they might need to go through that wandering. I think it's more of if they're only wandering, right? And they never really end up on the topic, is it's more dangerous. But I love that you brought that up, and I agree completely.
Well, thank you again, Amy, and we'll hopefully be continuing this relationship between you and the collaborative when we set up these simulations that you're so generously offered to do. We're really excited about that, and like we said, everyone will hear more, and we'll also have this recording posted if people want to share it more broadly with their other colleagues as well. So thank you again.
Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, and there's my coworker barking. So time to
Perfect
go
timing
outside.
then.
All right.
All
Thanks
right.
everyone for your time and
Yep. Thanks,
attention.
everybody. Have a good day.